Driscoll is with us, formerly with the Department of Justice. All right, Bob, you sat through and listened. Takeaways.
Well, I mean, I think that she's in a difficult position, as anyone representing Trump right now is, because she doesn't know what is in the affidavit. The affidavit is the key, is what you'd want to see, because the affidavit will lay out who the agents are, who their informants are, what the basis was to get the judicial finding there was probable cause that a crime was committed. So, and they're not going to get the affidavit ever unless there's an indictment, most likely. So the affidavit is going to remain sealed, I think, no matter what. And we may see the search warrant itself and the inventory from the search. And that may be helpful on the margins.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, is it a little
the search warrants
disingenuous? And obviously I knew what Christina's answer to this would be, so I figure I'd ask a fair and independent arbiter such as yourself. Is it a little disingenuous for Garland to come out after 3 days of this and putting the nation through really a sort of an extraordinary moment of unprecedented action by the FBI and the Department of Justice to come out and say, hey, we're going to unseal the search warrant and the receipt, but the affidavit that actually would tell you really what's behind this and what's going on, we're still going to keep that secret?
I don't think it's disingenuous. It's standard practice, but I think that for the average person sitting on TV, when I was watching it live, I think a lot of people, particularly with the commentary afterwards, got the impression that we're going to learn more than we're really going to learn, because an affidavit or a search warrant is not that exciting. There might be a citation to statute on it. There might not be, but it's probably something very general. You know, Schedule A on it or attachment A is likely just a picture of Mar-a-Lago, maybe a floor plan of the rooms they plan on searching. And then the second page is probably what they're looking for, which is probably something very vague, like fruits and instrumentalities of a violation of whatever the statute is, probably one of the classification ones.
I listened to him here. Well, let's see if we can play this. This is the soundbite from the open of the show. Garland talking about unsealing the warrant. Take a listen.
The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter.
It sounds pretty magnanimous, right? That the American people deserve to know. And basically, what we're going to know is a redacted version of receipts, took documents, and then how you described the search warrant. It just doesn't feel like really letting the American people know and understand why he took this enormous step.
Right. Well, and again, it's a matter of, it's not improper, but it's a matter of setting expectations too high. Because, I mean, there's obvious reasons they can't let the affidavit go now, because the names of confidential informants would be on there. All the investigation they've done, that essentially be tipping their hand. And frankly, if to the extent they don't bring a case, there might be adverse material in there that would be harmful to innocent people. So it makes sense that they won't let it go. But I think it's a classic problem the Justice Department has, is if you want to respond to public pressure, sometimes you just put off the day of reckoning, because people are now going to expect that when this search warrant comes out, they're going to know more than they know. And then everyone's going to look at it and say, well, this doesn't tell us much. There's a citation to the classification statutes and or not.
This is actually, let me go back. Christina made the point that it was decorum to have this conversation and not to release it on their own. Look, she has a client, she's representing what they believe is their best interest, and spin is part of the game. You expect that. How is it decorum with people who you say are engaged in misconduct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could release the warrant. You get the warrant when, I mean, I've been there and received warrants on behalf of clients when there's been an FBI search, and you get the warrant, and at that point, there's nothing confidential about it because you have it, and you could make it public if you want to. In fact, I think some defendants or some subjects have made their warrants public with respect to some of the searches related to other aspects of the January 6th related investigation. So there's no restriction on doing it. I think you want to be cautious if you represent the former president and they don't want to get out over their skis, and it's probably, it's always a committee. If you're representing someone that important. So I feel for her in that sense. But practically speaking, there's nothing magic about it. You could release it in
Right.
2 seconds.
I got one last question for you, real quick. What do you make of this line by the president and his team? We were cooperating, and then if you take him at face value that there was a subpoena and then nobody ever came back, which she kind of danced around,
Right.
would there be a raid if they were truly cooperating?
Well, I mean, there could be, and we don't know, and I hate to speculate, but
Okay.
I think what it looks like is that there is a witness or an informant or someone that told the FBI or DOJ that there were documents on the premises that were not previously disclosed.
She said she didn't believe that. Real quick, on the law, does the president actually have to sign something that says this is declassified? Like if he wanted to declassify intelligence or a satellite picture or anything else, doesn't he can declare it on his own when he is still the president, but doesn't he have to go through some kind of process that there would be a record of?
Typically they do. She brings up an interesting point, but I think the broader point is when you're looking at the seriousness of this, you want to investigate it as the DOJ, the president is in a different position for everyone else because it loses a lot of force to say this person is in possession of classified documents. But of course, if he had bothered to declassify them on his last day in office, it would all be legal. And so it begins to look like a touch foul, I think, to a lot of people in the world. So, I mean, I think that's the real question, is a discretionary one. That this is when you're dealing with the president and his team's right to bring this up. It's a very different position than a mid-level DOD person walking out the door with 3,000 classified documents, because the president could have declassified them. Whether he did or not may be a fight, and maybe the sources or there's more to it that we obviously don't know what the FBI knows.
And I just want to say this just because there are probably people at home thinking it, but the president is also very different than a Secretary of State with classified information, for that matter. Right. Something you and I spent years talking about.
Well, and I feel bad because lots of honest people work for the Department of Justice, but the problem is you build up a record of some bad IG reports and bad conduct, and you got to take your hits in situations like this when people need to trust you. She put out the litany, and you put out the litany, and in some ways, Merrick Garland has to sit there and take it, even though he wasn't around at the time for a lot of the prior bad acts. But this is what reputation means. That's if you built up a reputation where people don't trust you, you come to a situation like this where you're relying on the essentially the faith the American people have in the FBI, that they wouldn't do this unless they have good basis. And, Trump, somewhat appropriately from his perspective, I think it's a fair point to say, what, I'm supposed to be, admiring of the FBI because there was only one altered document used to get a FISA warrant in the last case against me, and
it's a great point.
I mean, I think that those kind of things, they may be rare in the general scheme of things, but if it's happened to you, it's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure if it happens to you, and if it keeps happening as well. Hey, Bob, we got to run. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Leland.
All right, live pictures of Mar-a-Lago. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.